on remote. All board members are present. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, board members. We have two action items actually that were pulled from routine agenda last board meeting, and they're informational items, and these items are actually report plus action, so we are to take action on both items. I'd like to start with A1 with Mr. Khan, approval of construction project final changes or facility improvement. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Nava, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Before the board tonight is the final change order for the Bear Creek High School fire alarm project. I'm sure the board remembers that as we move to notice of completion, the board must approve the final cost of a project, and then the notice of completion will be returned at the next meeting when it's done. Bear Creek was a tough job. We ran through all $100,000 of the allowance, and then we went another $31,776 on top of that. It was a very difficult job. We discovered that even the tiered audience seating in the theater, unlike many theaters that I've been involved with the construction of, the Bear Creek Theater is built up on a wood frame. I don't know if anybody knew that, but since it's wood, it needed fire alarm sensors as well. Stage construction needed fire alarm sensors. I mean, it was really a difficult build. Another issue with fire alarms, and we found that our fire alarms are the most expensive portions of this, relatively more expensive than outright construction, just because fire alarm codes change every 2 years. And you do anything to it, you got to bring it up through how many years of code changes. That said, we pulled this item from last agenda on the 17th, but when you take in all the projects that were listed plus this, the facilities department was $148,000 under budget on all of them combined. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Board have any questions? We'll start out with Mr. Connexet.
No, nothing on this item.
Nothing on that item. Let's go with Mr. Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. No questions.
No questions. Mr. Freitas.
No questions, President Nava.
Mr. Heberly.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Porter.
No questions for me, Mr. Nava.
Ms. McFarland.
No questions for myself either, Mr. Nava.
Awesome. That was an awesome explanation on Mr. Khan's part. So it's an action item, and I have no questions either. So I'm going to ask, first of all, did the board member have a question?
I move to approve.
One moment, George. Let me give a chance to get any public comments. Ms. Armstrong, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we have one, and Michelle Orgon.
Okay, Michelle, you're on.
Good evening, President Nava. I think Mr. Khan has explained the questions for the differences in his opening statement. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion made by Mr. Neely. I need a second. I have a motion made by Mr. Neely.
I'd like to second it.
Ms. McFarland seconds the motion. Mr. Porter. Mr. Conexton,
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Heberly,
Aye.
Mr. Freitas,
Aye.
Mr. Nava, aye, and the two members that made the motion and second, motion carries 7-0. Okay, we have an approval of the Board of Education of Amendment 1 to facilities lease between Lodi Unified and blah, blah, and this. But Mr. Khan, you pull this item also and give us a thorough explanation, sir?
Thank you, President Nava, members of the board, Dr. Washer. So before the board is an explanation on the executive summary of what we put under consent last week. In essence, there is a base bid that the board has technically already approved under Resolution 2018-08. The reason for the action item is staff is requesting an additional $6 million for this project. Board may recall staff advising that the three big projects, that being Lodi High, Tokay High, and Needham, would need more capital. Staff is comfortable stating that the addition of the capital to this project will not endanger any of the projects listed in 2018-08, and conservatively speaking, the staff can advise that there should be money left after all projects are completed under the 2018-08 resolution. Before the board tonight, the board has often indicated that there is a desire, when possible, to remove portables from school sites and change them out for permanent classrooms. In this item tonight is the option to select an additional 2 classrooms, making a total of 9, or an additional 4 classrooms, making a total of 11 classrooms. Staff is recommending the last alternative, the alternative 2, to produce 11 classrooms. There were 13 portables on the Needham site prior to construction beginning. Staff believes that replacing those 13 with 11 will allow the site to remove all 13 portables. The extra 2 classroom difference will be made up in the, I'm not sure what the room's called, but it's the little stage room that looked like it was an NPR back from the 1920s or something. Also, if the board does approve the additional classrooms, we are still awaiting the GMP for the MP and nutrition building that's also designed at the site. That building is a virtual copycat of the board's Lockford School MP and nutrition building. The actual size dimensions are very, very close. There are some slight design differences as the architects have attempted to recreate a similar feeling on the MP nutrition building to the old Needham building that was demolished this past summer. That building plus some additional project works relating to waterworks and some fire alarm connections to the old Needham building, we think will take no more than an additional $6 million. So again, staff is recommending the base bid plus the additional 4 classrooms, which is base bid plus the alternate 2 in your contractual documents, or option 3 on the executive summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Khan, for your explanation. Let's go again. Now we're going to start with Ms. McFarland. Any questions?
Can hear you.
No questions?
Oh, yes, I have questions. I was muted. I apologize. I have, with
Okay.
our new headsets we have,
multiple buttons to press, so I apologize. My
right.
first one is, I'm understanding this is going to be in more than one phase. Is that correct, Mr. Khan? We're talking about classrooms, and this first part is the first phase, and then a multi-purpose room, for lack of a better word, would be a second phase that would happen when?
We refer to them as increments, but yes, ma'am, they're phases. So we expect the MP nutrition building to be out of DSA late December, early January. Usually takes 3 to 4 weeks to get a guaranteed maximum price out of the contractor. Late January, possibly. Once we have GMP and the board approves that, the the contractor will hire the subs, and work can begin within the week of that approval.
Thank you. My other question is, with the additional classrooms, are we anticipating more students, or will this be an even money on students that are there? Will the 11 classrooms buy us more room?
No, ma'am. It's actually pari
A
passu.
wash.
Yes.
Okay.
It just gets rid of the old portable buildings.
And then by approving the recommendation, are we sticking with what we've told the public on Measure U? There's nothing, I mean, I've read everything back, but this obviously came into play before I was on the board. So I want to make sure that what we have told, not necessarily not the wish list, but what we have told the public and the parameters of Measure U, that this is encompassing everything that we said we were going to do.
This would align with the board resolution 2018-08, which the board passed on February 20th, 2018, with the exception of the additional classrooms.
Perfect. I appreciate it. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland. Mr. Porter.
I have 2 questions. First of all, I wasn't here when Measure U went through and how you determined the hierarchy. How was the hierarchy determined? I know that Lodi High School was a retrofit of classrooms and so forth. Tokay High School is mainly athletic. So how did athletic jump ahead of Needham's concerns?
The stadium, it just fit into the schedule, I think.
Well, I'm talking about the ancillary materials that are going on right now. The other locker room that's being made, the concession stand. How did that jump ahead of Needham's concern for classrooms?
Well, it's
And again, I wasn't here for this. I was wondering, was that a board decision?
Mr. Porter, let Mr. Khan answer your question, and then you can let him answer your question. Mr. Khan?
So the practice gymnasium is an instructional area. Certainly there are snack room or a room to prepare what are in essence fundraising items for the ASB clubs to sell during football games and that type of thing. But the board did approve the classroom building. I wasn't here during the master scheduling process either, but in my discussions with staff, it's always been a desperate need to have an additional physical education instructional space at the site. So.
Thank you. I have one more question. Mr. Nava, I was trying to clarify my question to make it easier for Mr. Khan. So I wasn't trying to interrupt him, nor was I trying to let him not talk. All right?
Okay,
the second thing is, where are we in terms of the procedure with Needham? How many months, days, years are we away from completing all the things that we've had on the wish list for Needham?
The wish list being part of the $1.1 billion. Oh, well, I know
No, I mean just for Needham. Just Needham.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I don't know all what. I'm going to throw out another term that's been used tonight, but what during the master scheduling process was called phase 2 and phase 3. I'm sorry, I don't have that information in front of me right now. But
okay, well, thank you very much.
Mr. Porter?
I'm finished. Thank you much, Mr. Nava.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Eberly.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. So according to the implementation plan, which was actually developed because each site had committees and they've had joint committees with other schools, kind of based on high school attendance areas. And so there were a lot of meetings. And each site did set their own site priorities. So that's how a lot of the projects got evened out. There were some, of course, that came from the district, let's say bus drop-offs and things like that, because it was a matter of safety. So I guess it's not so much a question for me, but it really strikes home to me that this recommendation is exactly what the public is expecting and what the board is asking for. One of the things, and I know all the board members have seen me hold this up many times, it's the Measure U brochure. Oh, Dr. Washer's laughing at me. I keep this thing with me all the time. And the reason is that we as a, not only a board, but as a district, want to make sure that we're being faithful to the information that we sent out to people to actually approve the bond. And right in it, it says that we want to get rid of portables. There are definitely other things, but that's, oh, your mic. So this definitely goes along with it. And if you look at this compared to the implementation plan, Needham will be getting additional classrooms than what the initial implementation plan was asking for. And I really like that. It gets rid of portables. It helps with capacity and flexibility at the site. How many times have we heard about, band rooms or maybe a STEM breakout room and those kinds of things? So that I'm really excited about this, and I think this is definitely a good move. And it does not take away from other site projects. Yeah, I think this is really great. I have actually no other questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eberly. Mr. Freitas?
Thank you, President Nava. So if I understand this correctly, we have a budget for Needham, and what staff is asking for today is to go over that budget.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And the way it looks like right now, we're going to spend $3.5 million for 7 classrooms as it is, and possibly $6 million additional for a multi-purpose room minimum.
That's correct.
And then
These are they are conservative.
And what we're being asked here tonight is to spend $2 million additional dollars to remove all the portables off of Needham and take that up to 11 classrooms, adding 4 additional.
Correct.
Okay. And what was Needham originally budgeted? What was the original budget amount for Needham?
14,116,000.
Okay. And with these two together, this is 11 million, or we've already spent some of the 14 million, or where are we within the Needham budget?
So the classroom building plus the alternate number 2, which is the 11 classrooms, will eat up all but with current projected expenditures and encumbrances, it will eat up all but 1 million of the original budget. And another way of saying that is it leaves the board 1 million to build the MP and nutrition building.
$1 million to buy,
Absent the
build a
$6 million increase.
$6 million. But that's okay because we've been doing very well with our Measure U, and we have a surplus right now on our Measure U projects.
You've got my best, yes, sir. You've got a estimated roughly $18 million surplus. It will take us a while to close out some of the projects, but I can tell the board it's a very extremely reasonable assumption that some 700,000 will not be used on the Beckman project. Almost 3 million of Bear Creek's budget will not be used. $1 million worth of Houston. So there's additional money in your current budget expenditures that are up on the bond measure website that we reasonably believe will fall out. And by reasonably believe, I mean we are highly confident. So your bond is going extremely well right now.
And we always like to hear that. And so with those savings that you were saying with the current project alone, that would pay for the multi-purpose nutritional services room by itself and still not even dip into the $18 million surplus that we have out there. Is that correct? Actually,
the 6 million would that would be part of the 18 million, but technically no, that those savings that I mentioned there and the fact that the bond's going extremely well, the board may recall it's already spent some of the money on the Lodi High Pool and locker room complex, and then we've added budget to Lodi High School to add 8 additional classrooms, and I believe 4 additional classrooms at Tokay as well.
Okay, so what are you projecting, all things being done, saying we use the option number 3 and building multi-purpose room, what would our total Measure U surplus look like, Mr. Khan?
Well, I would go 99.9% that the board will have at least 5 million left over after all is said and done. Maybe 75% that it'll have between 5 and 10 million. Between 10 and 20 is probably a lot more iffy. Below 50% would be my guess.
And staff is recommending that that's going to be okay for it to proceed and carry on with the rest of the capital projects and the Measure U projects. Is that right?
This will not impede any other project listed in 2018-08. And in all likelihood, it will continue, the surplus will continue to give the board reasonable options to expand scope as the board feels necessary on future modernization projects.
Well, I'm all in favor of this. And thank you, Mr. Khan, for your answers and your explanation. One, Measure U was designed to remove the portables, and it's fantastic to see that we're doing this too. Needham is one of our most needy campuses in age and in facilities, so that we're able to do this here absolutely makes complete sense. 3, it's also one of our Title I facilities, and I love seeing that we can provide an exceptional learning environment to all of our students, and especially a much better one for those in Needham. So you have my full support with option 3 and going forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Mr. Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. First of all, I'll start out by saying that I could not be stronger in my support for this. I don't have any questions, but I do have a couple comments that I want to make. I've spent a lot of time at Needham since I used to live just right down the street on Pleasant Avenue from there, and I would go up there quite a bit. And I've seen some changes going on, and I tell you what, that faculty out there is excited about this, and they're going to make the best of it. They do great with what they have right now. This is just going to push it over the top, and I'm very excited about that. Second comment that I want to make. Mr. Khan, you and your staff do an excellent job of being flexible on this whole thing. We keep coming up with things that we want done differently, and you accommodate it. I remember in the first one, we talked about those portables staying, and the board made a point that we want those portables gone, and he made it happen. I appreciate that. I'm also recalling the pool at Lodi High. I'm very excited about that. So you guys have done a fantastic job. You've managed the money well, and I really appreciate that. Third thing I want to do is thank you to our community who has given us the tools to make this happen. This is a big deal for Lodi Unified, and I am so very appreciative that the community saw it as a priority. And that's all I've got, Mr. Nava. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Mr. Connexet, you're next, sir. Gary?
Thank you. I had to unmute. Thank you. Needham School, I think, is a site. Most everything's been mentioned already, but it is a site that's in need of an upgrade. And this option allows us to get at least 11 classrooms. And I would think that would be somewhat of a minimum, but it will give us 11 new classrooms and a multi-purpose room. I'm not sure, is that multi-purpose room a full-blown thing, or is it scaled back?
It's virtually the same dimension as your multi-purpose room at Lockford School, Mr. Connexted.
Okay.
So
well,
it's a full scale.
Cool. Okay, we have Measure U money set aside for it, and I think that's a good idea. I'm all for it, and so with that, I move to approve this item.
Okay, Mr. Gary, let me make a comment and I'll come back to your motion, okay? Actually, thank you, Gary. I want to mention that if I had all this money in this district and more, I would level Needham and build a new school, because that school is it's older than I am, I think, and that's pretty old. Number one. That's number two. I've been into some of the portables there. Musty smell and squeaking and everything. As I walked in there, and I've been through several of them. I've even did some reading in one of them, and so I know that they're so bunched up and full, and the smell is not very good. The ventilation was not good. So we're fortunate that this community approved Measure U. And I know Mr. Freitas was ramrodding this in charge, and all the board members gave him some help to get to the communities and approve this. So I am for it 100%. It's a much needed thing for the classrooms to go in there. You talk about your pride on your students. It's coming from my experience, is that if you have some classrooms in there that are neat and have the ventilation and have good acoustics and so forth, my gosh, those students there will act, tremendously. They'll learn more than they're supposed to, I think, if that means something. But I'm telling you that we are fortunate that this community has done that. And I am glad that it's going to Needham, because it's one of the oldest schools in Lodi Unified School District. Again, 100% for them. Okay, let me go to Ms. Armstrong. Is there any public comment on this?
Yes, we have 3.
3, okay.
And the first one, her name is Marta Amador. She's going to have a translator who is Martina Ruiz, who is a teacher with us. So if Marta, if you're there, and as well as Martina.
Okay, Martina, you're going to interpret?
Yes.
You ready? Okay, be ready.
Yes. Good evening, President Nava and members of the board and Dr. Washer. My name is Martina Ruiz, and I am a teacher at Needham. Tonight, I will help translate for one of our parents who only speaks Spanish, Mrs. Marta Amador. Señora Marta, ¿está ahí? Señora Marta, ¿está lista? Thank you for your patience. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, we're not locating her on our end.
Okay. Okay, I am so sorry. I have her statement. I don't know if at this point, if we want to come back to Mrs. Marta Amador.
Is she muted, Ms. Armstrong, or what seems to be the problem?
We're not
Well,
locating her right now. We could move on to the next one if you'd like, Mr. Nava, and come back to her.
¿Me escucha? Hello.
Sí, señora Marta, ¿está
Sí,
ahí?
sí, aquí estoy. ¿Sí me
Sí.
puedes?
Got her. Okay, go ahead.
Adelante.
Ok, so mi nombre es Marta Amador y soy la presidenta del concilio de la escolar de la escuela Needham y del comité de padres para aprendices de inglés. Y yo tengo una hija en 5º grado ahí en la escuela Needham. Además, hace 15 años tuve a mi hijo también ahí en la misma escuela.
Okay,
Y ahora,
señora, ¿me
¿perdón?
permite? ¿Me
Sí,
permite? So she's saying my name is Marta Amador, and she is president of the School Site Council at Needham, our English language learner advisory committee as well. She has a daughter in 5th grade at Needham School, and 15 years ago, she also had her oldest son attend Needham School. Adelante.
Sí, ahora les hablo porque en nombre de los padres de familia, de todos los estudiantes de la escuela Needham, para pedirles que consideren votar por la construcción de los 11 salones para reemplazar los salones portables que están muy viejos y con algunos problemas.
So she's speaking tonight on behalf of the parents and students at Needham to ask you to please consider voting for the construction of the 11 classrooms to replace the very old portables.
Y como presidenta del concilio escolar, he escuchado comentarios de los padres en las juntas y en el Parents Café también.
So over the time, she has heard parent comments and concerns in our school meetings and our parents' cafe meetings.
Y, por ejemplo, tenemos el problema del aire acondicionado, también el problema del mojo en los salones, algunos.
And over the time, she mentioned a couple of examples. We've had the problem with air conditioning in these old portables. And she mentioned that one of them even had a mold issue.
Sí, estos son pues dos ejemplos que muestran la necesidad que tenemos en los salones portables y además pues hace muchos años que las familias de Needham hemos pedido tener una cafetería más grande.
Thank you. These two examples show the need to change these old portable classrooms. Our Needham families, she stated, have been asking for also a larger cafeteria now for many years so that all students can fit. Adelante.
Y que tengan la forma de que no tengan que comer afuera, también para cuando tenemos actividades de nuestros estudiantes como la danza, la noche de ciencias, no tengamos que hacerlo afuera porque no cabemos en la cafetería todos.
She mentioned that we are in need of this multi-purpose cafeteria in order to have students be able to eat inside and not have to eat outside. She mentions that when we have activities like the Dance Academy, I think she said the science night. We currently we would have to have these activities outside because students and families don't fit in our current cafeteria. Adelante.
En mi opinión, realmente me gustaría que nos tomen en cuenta a todos los padres de familia que pues nos preocupa el bienestar de nuestros estudiantes.
In her opinion, she would really like to ask the board to please take into consideration the concerns and take into account that parents care about the well-being of our Needham students.
Y finalmente, para terminar mi opinión, les pido que por favor consideren votar a favor de aprobar pues los 11 salones nuevos que necesitamos en nuestra escuela. Y creo que si ya está el presupuesto ahí en la mesa, pienso que sería muy bueno que tuviéramos la construcción ahora y no en un futuro hacer un gasto extra.
Okay, finally, she states that she's asking to please consider voting in favor of approving the construction of the 11 new classrooms at our Needham School. She stated that if construction budget is already in place, in her opinion, it would be better to build all 11 now with the funds. Instead of waiting at a later time, and later it might be an extra expense. Creo que es.
Sí, les doy las gracias por escucharme, por su tiempo y considerar mi opinión y la de todos los padres de los estudiantes de Needham. Muchas gracias.
So she concludes by thanking you for your time and your consideration to the Needham parents' request. And she thanks you for your time and consideration tonight. And I do that as well. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Señora Amador, muchas gracias por todos sus razones de los salones y todo. Y se mira muy bien. I'm just telling Ms. Amador that the concern that she has is well taken, and that this board will consider on to presenting this resolution as to going through for their buildings of 11 classrooms and their lunchroom or cafeteria that they have there. Now I need to have, I lost my train of thought. I didn't. Ms. Armstrong, we have some more public comments.
Yes, next is Misty Jamont.
Missy, you're on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I got completely booted off just a few minutes ago, so I'm so glad that I didn't miss my turn. Good evening, President Nava, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Misty Jama, and I am a first grade teacher at Needham School. I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of the teachers, staff, students, and families of Needham Elementary School. When I came to Needham almost 20 years ago, yes, 20 years ago, I moved into one of the many portable classrooms that were housed on our campus. At that time, Needham was known as Heritage Intermediate. Our homeschool, Heritage Elementary, was overcrowded, and to relieve the excess students on that campus, it was decided to house the 4th through 6th grade students on the Needham campus. During that same time, Needham was home to some of the district's ROP and other adult school programs. These programs were located in the only permanent classrooms that were safe to use on the campus. Portables were brought onto the site for our elementary students to use until another solution could be found. Yet, here we still are over 20 years later. When the Lincoln Tech site was rebuilt, the adult ed programs moved out in 8 permanent classrooms, which were refurbished to fit the elementary needs. That was about the time that we separated from Heritage and became the current K6 site that we are today. Despite adding more portables throughout the years, for a total of 13 portable classrooms and recouping those 8 permanent classrooms, we've often struggled to find adequate space on our campus. There have been times that we've had to get really creative with our space, such as the year that we had to house 2 of our intervention teachers and their students in our teachers' lounge and move the teachers' lounge to the library, sectioning it off with temporary partitions. Currently, we continue to be creative with our space. We have our speech therapists housed in an old book closet, yes, a closet, off of our main corridor. During on-site teaching, they're able to pull individual students in small groups into the cramped space, but as it is a storage closet, it barely meets their needs. Since removing 3 of our portables off campus during construction, our RSP teacher is now sharing a classroom with the PE teacher and with the custodian whose office was torn down with the old building. The intervention teacher is currently sharing the computer lab space with our after-school bridge program. While we are currently on distance learning, we are being flexible and we're making it work. However, with the district and the board's desire to return to campus for on-site learning, our situation will continue to become strenuous in making our current space work. Prior to our Measure U construction, we had 13 portable classrooms, as it was mentioned tonight. 3 of them were removed to make way for the multi-purpose room that we desperately need. We're now down to 11 portables and we are struggling to find space. There's no way that we're going to be able to make do with 7 or 9, and I'm so glad to hear many of you speak to that tonight. We need all of the 11 classrooms that are being proposed by Mr. Khan and his staff. I have now begun to have the pleasure of having the children of previous students in my class, and despite how old that makes me feel, I find it incredibly heartwarming to see the generations of families who have come through our site. Some of our students are attending school in the same old portable classrooms that their parents attended school in 20 years ago. Our families and our students deserve better than this. They deserve a campus that they can be proud of, a campus that is safe and permanent. I encourage you to vote for approving all 11 classrooms to be built on the Needham campus. Thank you so much for your time tonight and consideration this evening. I hope that you all have a very safe and healthy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ms. Dees. Ms. Armstrong, any other public comments?
Yes, one more. Michelle Orgon.
Michelle, you're on.
Good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Dr. Washer, and members of the community. I want to first apologize as I've had a little bit of a dental appointment today, so hopefully I can make it through and I can get the words out clearly delineated. As some of you brought up clear points, yes, Needham was constructed in 1938. I think it is older than Mr. Nava. We have had the newer part built in the 1950s that is still standing. I want to thank our community for voting for Measure U and seeing that it was important that Needham see a multi-purpose room where students could all be housed to eat and classrooms that were up to date. As many have mentioned tonight, some of the deficiencies that the room has, teachers and staff make it work to give the best education possible. Wouldn't it be great and grand that all students could sit inside a multi-purpose room and have their lunch and not have to eat outside where it's damp and cold, or when it is hot, they could sit inside where there's air conditioning. Please provide option 3 to the students of Needham and families so that even on a parent night, all parents could be welcomed inside and not have to stand 20 feet outside to hear a speaker to the presentation. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you for your comments tonight. Please go forward with advocating for option 3 for Needham. And thank you for your time. And thank you to our parent tonight for speaking up for our students and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Actually, we have a motion on the floor. Mr. Knaxat made a move that we approved. All I need is a second.
I'll second that.
I'll
Okay.
second.
A second by Mr. Neely. All in favor of Mr. Heberly.
Aye.
Mr. Freitas.
Aye.
Mr. Porter.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland.
Before I say I want to be clear that we are motioning for the number 3 option.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's an
Yes.
aye.
Okay, Mr. Freitas.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, board, for attending this special meeting. I have no other business unless our superintendent has some comments.
No comments. Thank you, Mr. Nava.
No comments? Yes, Mr. Neely?
Move to dismiss.
Move to dismiss, or adjourn. Let's put adjourn, to adjourn, okay? Second by Mr. Knaxat.
I did, okay.
Mr. Heberly?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Porter? Mr. Porter?
Aye.
Mr. Freitas?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, and you people have an excellent Thanksgiving. Like I said, the last time I said every day is a Thanksgiving with this pandemic. So to me, I'm just fortunate that we are able to function and enjoy life with some good health, and continue to be safe and have good health. I'll see you at our next meeting on December 15th. Thank you.